Now for tonight's author feature. With the release of his debut novel, Blind Date, in 1981, R.L. Stine established himself as one of the most important voices in horror for a new generation. This was followed up with the release of Fear Street in 1989, which remains the best-selling young adult series in history, with more than 100 books published thus far. And then the release of Goosebumps in 1992, which transformed Stine into a worldwide celebrity. The series was soon adapted as a hit TV series and became a blockbuster film starring Jack Black in 2015. A sequel arrived 3 years later. R.L. Stine continues to create exciting new horror concepts for younger audiences each year, with Beast Island, the third of his new middle grade graphic novel series called Just Beyond. A worldwide best-selling author and the master of scary stories for young readers, R.L. Stine has become one of the most successful American novelists of all time. Bob, it is a thrill for me to welcome you tonight and for Gramercy Books to host your book launch.
Linda, thank you. It's so nice to be here on Halloween. This is my big night, you know. Halloween, this is my national holiday. After Halloween, November comes, everyone just forgets about me. So I'm very happy to be here tonight.
We are thrilled, so looking forward to this program, and I want to thank everyone in the audience for joining us as well. A warm welcome now to R.L. Stine.
I love the silent ovation. That's great. I'm so happy to be with everyone tonight on Halloween. Whenever I talk to people, I always start out by reading a poem by another author. This is a poem by Shel Silverstein, and it's called Haunted. And the reason I like to read this poem is that it's funny and scary at the same time, which is what I try to do with my books. Haunted. I dare you all to go into the haunted house on Howland Hill, where squiggly things with yellow eyes peek past the wormy windowsill. We'll creep into the moonlit yard where weeds reach out like fingers, and through the rotted old front door, a squeaking on its hinges, down the dark and whispering hall, past the musty study, up the winding staircase, don't step on the step that's bloody, through the secret panel to the bedroom, where we'll slide into the ragged, cobweb, dusty bed 10 people must have died in, and the bats will screech, and the spirits will scream, and the thunder will crash like a horrible dream, and we'll sing with the zombies and dance with the dead and howl at the ghost with the axe in his head. And come to think of it, what do you say we go get some ice cream instead? That's Haunted by Shel Silverstein. I love that poem. I'm happy to be able to talk to you all tonight. People always ask me, when you were a kid, what books did you read? And I have to say, when I was a kid in Bexley, I didn't read books at all. I read only comic books. I was a comic book freak, and I had big stacks. My friends and I all carried around our stacks of comic books, and we used to read them under the big tree in my front yard on North Columbia. And I loved it. When I was a kid, there were these incredible horror comics called Tales from the Crypt and The Vault of Horror and The Witch's Cauldron. And I just loved them. The art was amazing. And the stories were gruesome, bloody, horrible stories. And they all had funny twist endings. So as you can see, that was a major influence on me, those comic books. I used to read them at the barbershop. They had a big stack of them at the barbershop on Main Street. And one day I bought a couple of them and I brought them home, and my mother stopped me at the door and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you can't have these. You can't bring these in the house." I said, "Why? What do you mean? What's wrong?" She said, "This is trash. These are trash. You can't have them." So, and this is a true story, I used to go to the barber shop every Saturday morning and get a haircut just so I could read those comics. I had less hair when I was a kid than I do now. Do you believe that? But I had to read those comics. I just loved them. This is, maybe you recognize this. This is The Haunted Mask. How many of you have read the Haunted Mask Goosebumps book? I should say that, you know, because of my love of comic books, that's that's why I'm so thrilled to be writing graphic novels. What a thrill for me to now be writing comic books. And I'm having so much fun writing the Just Beyond books. And I'm very proud of this third one, which is called Welcome to Beast Island, which is sort of my retelling of the King Kong legend. And I hope it's for Goosebumps age kids. It's for middle grade readers. I hope you'll enjoy it. Anyway, The Haunted Mask is my favorite of all the Halloween stories that I've written. How many of you have read the book or seen the TV show of The Haunted Mask? Maybe you know it's about a girl named Carly Beth who wants to be really scary at Halloween time. So she pulls down the haunted mask over her face, and it sticks to her. It sticks to her skin, and she can't get it off. And it gets tighter and tighter, and it turns Carly Beth evil. That's basically what that book is about. And that is the only Goosebumps book out of all of them. I think the only one that's based on a true incident. It's based on something that really happened in my life. When my son Matt was a little guy, it was Halloween time. He was real little. And I was watching him from the doorway. He was down on the floor in the living room, and he was trying on a green rubber Frankenstein mask. And he pulled the mask down over his head, and he couldn't get it off. And I'm watching him. He's tugging and tugging and tugging. And I'm watching, and I'm thinking, what a great idea for us. I should have helped him, right? I should have helped him take it off. But I didn't win the Good Parent Award that day. But instead, I went running and putting notes, writing down notes, and that became The Haunted Mask. If any of you have seen, I'll tell you one more story about The Haunted Mask. It was the first TV show of Goosebumps that we filmed. And we had a wonderful young actress playing Carly Beth named Catherine Long. Maybe you remember, if you saw the show, or if you see it, it's on Netflix now. Very early in the show, two boys are teasing Carly Beth in the lunchroom, and they give her a sandwich with a worm in it, and she doesn't know, and she eats it up. So we were going to film this scene, and we made a sandwich, and we put a plastic worm in the sandwich, and we took it down to the set, and we were all ready to film when Carly Beth came to us, and she said, you know what? I can't really do this scene right with a plastic worm. I don't think it'll be good. I don't think I should do it with a plastic worm. I think we need a real worm. So we said, okay. And we went out and got a real worm, and we put the real worm in the sandwich and took it down to the set. And the two boys teased Carly Beth, and they handed her the sandwich, and she picked it up and she bit into it and started to chew. And yeah, disgusting, right? Yuck, right? But here's the sad part. You want to hear the really sad part? Here's the sad part. We had to shoot the scene 12 times. Right, 12 worms. A little, a little behind the scenes showbiz for you. Anyway, Linda, I'm looking forward to questions that Ben and Nandy have. And come back, Linda, wherever you are, and let's see what they have to say.
Well, as the viewers might know, and first let me just say, Bob, everyone, you should see the chat box. They were answering all your questions. There was someone who in fact said that Haunted House gave her the chills and she loved it. So, you know, you couldn't hear anyone, but I heard people screaming in the chat box.
Well, anyway, that's what we like. That's what we like.
Exactly.
Screaming in the chat box.
We have a special surprise tonight, given that you attended Bexley schools in the Central Ohio area, and it was during your days as a student there when the seeds of your writing career were planted. I have two guests to introduce to you. First, Ben Stebbin. Ben is an 8th grader at Bexley Middle School. He likes music and hanging out with friends. In school, his favorite subjects are math and science. Ben, thank you so much for being part of this program.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
And now I'd like to introduce you to Nandini Patel. So Nandini is also an 8th grader at Bexley Middle School. She loves to paint and play golf. And in school, her favorite subjects are design and math. Nandini, thank you for agreeing to interview Mr. Stine.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to tonight.
I'm going to now leave the screen and let the three of you talk. I'll be back to moderate the Q&As at the end of the program.
You're leaving me alone with them?
I'm leaving you alone with Ben.
Sure. Very good.
Okay, hi, Mr. Stine. Here's my first question. When did you know that you wanted to be a writer?
Ben, I started when I was 9 years old. I don't know why. I don't know why I thought it was interesting. I was just a weird kid. I actually started out in 4th grade drawing comic books. I did little comic books. And I had this superhero named Super Stooge. And I did comic books. He was the stupidest superhero on earth. He would like fly head first into brick buildings, and he was terrible. And I thought he was hilarious. And I drew these little comic books and I brought them into school and I passed them around in 4th grade. And everyone said, "These suck. These are terrible. You can't draw." And I looked around and I realized everyone else could draw better than me. I couldn't draw. They were right. So I went home. I had to be a writer. I knew I couldn't be an illustrator. And I had this typewriter, this old typewriter in my room, and I would be in there for hours typing every afternoon. Well, how weird. I don't know. I just loved it. My parents didn't understand me at all. My mother would stand outside the door and I'd be in typing stories and she'd say, "What's wrong with you? Go outside and play. Stop typing and go outside and play." Worst advice I ever got, right? Terrible advice. And I just say, "It's boring out there." Type, 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 type. It's boring. And here I am all these years later, still typing.
Very interesting. Why did you decide to always make the main characters in your books our age or a little younger?
They're always 12, no matter what. They're always 12. And I mean, there's a real reason for it, because most of the readers are under 12. Most Goosebumps readers are like 7 to 11. And then at 12, they move on to other people. And kids, we know as a fact, kids like to read about kids who are older than they are. They don't want to read about kids who are younger than they are. And so they're all 12. Everyone's 12. The other strange thing, or there are two other things about the characters in Goosebumps. One is they're all normal kids. There's nothing strange about them. They're not particularly talented. They're not particularly smart. They're not special in any way. They're all like average kids. And the idea is that these normal kids have to face these monsters and ghosts and these horrible things happening. And they have to use their own wits and figure out how to survive. And mainly because their parents are always useless. The parents in Goosebumps are totally useless. Either they don't believe the kid or they're not there.
Also interesting. And as you continue to write your books, did it become more difficult to come up with the ideas?
I'll tell you what's become more difficult. Thinking up ideas for Slappy the Evil Dummy. That's become a lot harder. You know, Slappy is my most popular villain. He's my most favorite, most popular character that I've created. I think largely because of the Goosebumps movies. He was like the star of those movies. And, you know, now we call Goosebumps is actually called Goosebumps Slappy World because he's so popular. And it's actually in my contract that every other Goosebumps book has to be about Slappy. And I've done about 14 of them, I think. Slappy Birthday, Slappy New Year, Night of the Living Dummy, Bride of the Living Dummy, Slappy's Nightmare. I've done so many of them. And I have to say, it's gotten a lot harder to think of ideas about a wooden dummy coming to life. That's been pretty tough. I killed him once. I wrote The Ghost of Slappy, but I had to bring him back. Who's next? What's happening?
Hi, Mr. Stein. Hi, Mr. Stein. My first question is, how do you come up with ideas for your book?
You know what? I don't even try to think of ideas anymore. I don't try to come up with ideas. Mainly because I think I've done every story a human can write. I don't think there's no ideas left. And so, I mean, I've been doing Goosebumps for 28 years. That's a lot of books, right? If we count them up, I'll have to go take a nap. But you know what I do? Here's my trick. I only try to think of titles. I just try to think of a good title. And the title will lead me to a story. One day, years ago, I was walking my dog in Riverside Park here in New York. And these words popped into my head. Say cheese and die. I thought, what? Wait, what? What's that? Say cheese and die. Where'd that come from? I don't know. And then I just started thinking about it. What if there was an evil camera? What if some kids discovered the camera? What if it took pictures of the future? And that's how I got the story. Just started with the title, and then it led me to the story. I just finished a Goosebumps yesterday called Fifth Grade Zombies. And that, again, I had the title. I had no idea what the story would be, but I knew it was, good title, Fifth Grade Zombies. And then I started to think, well, what if they're in a school? What if there's one room in the school that has them, and that kind of thing? And that's basically what I do now. I think of titles, which is backwards for most authors, right? Most authors get an idea, they're writing, and then later on they think of a title. But I always start with the title.
Oh, interesting. Why do you think Goosebumps is still a very popular book among the new generation of kids?
I think everyone likes to be scared. I think we all really enjoy every age. We enjoy being scared if we know that we're safe at the same time. If we know it's not. I have one rule with Goosebumps. I'm being very serious here. I have one rule with Goosebumps, and that is kids have to know when they're reading it that it couldn't really happen, that it's a fantasy. They have to know none of this could happen. And then if I establish that, then I can get pretty scary. I can go pretty far with the scares because kids know that it's not real. And I think one reason kids, even another generation, I get to scare a lot of generations, right? And I think one reason they like it is that, one, they know it's all going to work out. There's always a happy ending, always. And two, there are all these twists and turns and surprises in the book. It's never linear. It never goes in a straight line. I think a lot of children's books are very linear, and you just know where they're going to go. But with Goosebumps, I always want to have that moment where the reader says, oh no, I didn't realize. Oh my gosh, I had no idea that that's what was going on. And I think people like that.
Wow. So what was it that made you want to write this new graphic genre of children's horror stories?
Well, I sort of talked about it already. I just always loved comic books. I was always a big comic book fan. And these people from Boom Studios came to me and said, would you have any interest at all in writing comic books, a 100-page comic book? I said, are you kidding? I would love to. How much do I have to pay you to do it? I was just thrilled about it. And they came up with the title, I think, Just Beyond. And I thought, oh, that's a very catchy title. And then I thought, just beyond what? It kind of leaves you in suspense, doesn't it? The title of the books, Just Beyond, huh? Just beyond reality, I think, just beyond the real world. And I've had the greatest time. I've written 4 of them. The new, as we said, the new one, Welcome to Beast Island, just came out this week. And it's sort of my retelling of King Kong, where these kids and their uncle go to an island and there's a monster waiting on the island for them.
Okay. I'm going to say my final questions, but before I begin with my next question, I want to remind the audience to submit any questions they have for Mr. Stine in the Q&A box. Okay, on with my question. Mr. Stine, what made you decide to switch from the style of just horror and Goosebumps to the sci-fi fantasy horror of the Just Beyond series?
Yeah, they're very similar. It's the same audience. They're middle grade, which is my audience and my favorite audience. The 7 to 12-year-olds. I love this audience. I don't know why anyone would want to write for grown-ups. I don't get that at all. But the middle grade audience, I get them the last time. I'm telling you this. It's the last time in their lives they'll ever be enthusiastic. That's it. And I remember 8th grade. I taught 8th grade. Really, it's over. 8th grade, you guys are finished. That's it. And that from now on, you have to be cool. And you can't be enthusiastic about writers. And that's it. But the middle grade audience, they want to know the writer. They want to read everything. It's a wonderful audience. And one of my favorite things is the fan mail that I get. I get amazing fan mail from kids. Last week, I got a letter from a girl that said, Dear R.L. Stine, you are my 2nd favorite author. That was the whole letter. That was it. Talk about keeping you in suspense, right?
Yeah.
Pretty bad. And then maybe you've heard me tell my all-time favorite letter. This is my all-time favorite of all the letters I've gotten from a boy. He said, Dear R.L. Stine, I've read 40 of your books and I think they're really boring. Perfect, right?
Yeah.
Perfect letter.
Okay. My next question is, which is more challenging, writing Goosebumps or the graphic novels?
Well, the graphic novel suits my writing very well. I have fun with it, partly because I'm not great at description. I think I'm good at, plotting stories. I think I'm a very good story plotter. And I think I'm very good at making believable dialogue. I'm here praising myself, but for between kids, but I'm not a great describer. I don't have a great eye. And when you write comic books, you don't have to describe all the trees and all the flowers. You don't have to do that. I can write, I'm writing, it's like writing a script, like writing a movie script. And I can write, the boy runs through the jungle, art direction, but he runs through the jungle. And then the artists have to create all the foliage and all the trees and everything. They have to do all the hard work.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, doing the graphic novel is a lot of fun for me.
Okay. And my final question, do you think you will continue to write graphic novels?
Well, I hope so. I hope everyone likes them because I really do enjoy it. And I hope people will pick up Just Beyond and take a look at them and will want more. You
Mm-hmm.
always want that, You never know. You never know what people are going to do. I have another new series. Uh, the book just came out a couple weeks ago. It's a book series for the same middle grade readers based on the Garbage Pail Kids. Can you imagine? Do you know these kids? It's way before your time, way before. These were trading cards back in the 80s, and they're gruesome, horrible kids. It's really gross stuff, really terrible. And they asked me if I could write a book series about these awful kids. And of course I said yes, because I say yes to everything. That's my career advice, by the way. Say yes to everything. Say yes to everything. And I'm having the best time doing the writing about these horrible kids in Garbage Pail Kids. And it's kind of nice because all the 35-year-olds who collected the cards now have kids, and they're buying the book for their kids too. So that's kind of fun. So I'm so lucky, aren't I? I'm doing Goosebumps and graphic novels. I'm so busy. It's really, I feel like I'm a really lucky person.
That's good.
I'm going to ask my final questions. Mr. Stine, what inspired you for your storyline for Just Beyond Welcome to Beast Island?
Well, as I said, it was basically, my idea was to retell King Kong, because that's a sort of a perfect story where these innocent people come to an island and have no idea what's going on there. But the people who live on the island know, because they've been there, and they know in King Kong there's this giant ape, this giant gorilla who menaces and rules the place. But when the two kids and their uncle come to Mala Suerte Island, bad luck, they don't know what to expect, and they don't know why things are going wrong and why everyone's so scared. And then they find the beast, and that's the basic idea of the story.
Was there a particular part of the book that you might have enjoyed writing a little bit more than the others?
I don't know. I enjoy all of it. I obviously still love writing. I still look forward to getting up in the morning and going to my computer and writing. And it's a very different process for me, since I plan out every book before I write it. I do a complete chapter by chapter outline of every book I write. So this is what happens in chapter 1. This is some of the dialogue. This is how the chapter ends. Chapter 2. So I do all the hard work before I write the book. That's all the thinking. Every hard part goes into the outline. And when I sit down to write, I know everything that's going to happen in the book, everything. And I can just sit back and write and enjoy my writing. So I think that's why I enjoy all of it so much.
What message do you want kids to think after they read your new book?
There are never any messages of any kind in my books. It's a strict rule with me. There's no morals, nothing uplifting. The main thing you learn is run. If you see something bad, run. That's the main thing you learn. Seriously though, my books are all about getting kids to read. They're easy to read. There's no vocabulary words. There's no morals. I'm not trying to teach anything. I want kids to say, wow, I can turn to a book for entertainment. It's really fun to read a book. And that's really all that I care about. That's what all these books are about, including Just Beyond.
Well, thanks for answering our questions, Mr. Stine. Now we're going to turn the program back to Mrs. Cass for the Q&A portion.
Mrs. Cass, there you are.
Okay, here I am. Ben and Anthony, thank you so much for such wonderful questions and for being part of tonight's program.
Yeah.
That was terrific. I really enjoyed that. That was really great.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too.
Thank you for being part of it. Well, this shifts us to the Q&A box, and I have to say that we have got a lot of questions, Bob. Lots.
Well, I hope I have a lot of answers. I don't know.
Okay. Well, we have 46 open questions, so I'm going to try to see what I can do to combine
Stop,
some of them.
stop. Now you're scaring me.
Here, let me try this.
Yeah.
Okay. The first question that I'm going to ask is coming from Noah. Did the TV show The Twilight Zone from the 50s and 60s have an impact on your writing?
I never missed the Twilight Zone. Rod Serling is a real hero of mine, and it had a huge impact. There, you know, when you're a writer, a lot of people have an impact on you. A lot of people influence you. But Rod Serling was one of the main ones. I had a lot of others. Ray Bradbury, the science fiction writer, was also a major influence on me, as well as a number of science fiction. When I was their age, I was a big science fiction fan.
Well, there's a number of questions like, do you still use a typewriter?
Yeah, why is that? No, of course I don't. But people get the idea from the Goosebumps movies. Jack Black, as me, uses a typewriter. And so, you know, people think, well, but that's not true. It's not real. And as I said before, I think I've sold more typewriters than anyone in the world. So all these parents write to me and say, I had to buy my son a typewriter. He wants to be like you. And I get all these pictures of kids typing on typewriters. They belong in museums.
Actually, we have one in the bookstore, but you're right.
I know you do. I know.
How did you find the artist? Christopher wants to know the artist for your graphic novel series.
I didn't. The comic book company did. Okay. And interesting, the covers are wonderful. They're done by one guy, but all the interior art, all the insides are done by these twin sisters out in Seattle. These twin women, they work together on comic books. And they did the first 3 of my graphic novels. They're amazing. They're just amazing. I just marvel at it because the comics are 100 pages long. That's 100 pages of art. That's a lot of work. You know, I write my script, takes a week or 2, and then I revise it a little bit, and then they send it off, and then they need 6 months to do the art for the comic. And then someone else has to do the lettering, and then someone else does all the coloring. It's quite a process. It's very interesting.
Braden had a question, and there were 5 people who voted with this question. Do you have any advice for kids, me, who dream of being a published author?
I have no advice. I have no advice. I never give advice to kids because I always think if you're going to be a writer, if you really want to write, you don't need advice. You're going to be like me. When I was a kid, I didn't need anyone to tell me to read a lot or keep writing all the time. If you really are going to be a writer, you know it, and you're going to do all those things. You don't need anyone to tell you. I will say this one thing, my only advice is have fun with it. There's so many authors, and I'm sure you get this, Linda, with Q&A from other authors. There's so many authors who talk about how hard it is to be a writer and how hard it is to write. It's so hard. And I say, if you want to write and really do well, you have to have fun with it. It's not hard. You can't start out thinking it's hard. You have to think, gee, I'm creating my own worlds here. Wow, I'm making up people. I'm creating stories. You have to think, I'm having a great time doing this. I'm enjoying it. And you'll do much better than thinking that writing is hard.
Well, speaking of other authors, Michelle and 4 other of our viewers tonight wanted to know, what do you like to read?
I read a lot of mysteries and thrillers, mostly mysteries and thrillers. I read old mysteries. I've been reading old Perry Mason novels from the 40s, Earl Stanley Gardner, wonderful courtroom novels. I just finished the new Ian Rankin, Inspector Rebus mystery. Um, there's a book by John Banfield called Snow I just finished, a really wonderful mystery. And that's mainly what I read, mysteries and old thrillers, old time Nero Wolfe books, that kind of stuff, because I'm old.
Oh. How did you come up with Slappy? It's about 6 people want to know. Carter asked.
Yeah, I know. I wish I knew. I don't know. I don't know where he came from. When I was a kid in Bexley, I loved puppets. I had marionettes when I was a kid, and I used to do like puppet shows. And I had a dummy. I had a ventriloquist dummy. I think it was Jerry Mahoney. And I think it was. But I don't know what led me to Slappy. There was an old movie that I saw on television. It was a British film called Dead of Night. And it had 3 short horror stories. And one of them was about a ventriloquist whose dummy comes to life and ruins his life. And maybe that stuck in my head. And then we were talking about the Twilight Zone. And there is a very famous Twilight Zone with that same story where the ventriloquist dummy comes to life. I'm sure I saw that. So maybe they were back in my head when I thought of Slappy.
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to do the PS before I ask the question. Several people, Kyle Barnett asked this. The PS was, thanks for gifting me the love of reading. Currently a 26-year-old English language arts teacher that just never grew up. I love your work. Thank you for tonight. And his question is,
that's so nice,
isn't it? During the mid 1990s, you were releasing upwards of 10 Goosebumps books per year. Can
like
you
12?
12, okay.
12 a year, yes.
12 a year.
Upward of 10.
Can you describe what your writing environment was like during this time?
Well, I didn't get out of the apartment much. I didn't get out much. I will tell you the absolute truth, but you won't believe it. Back in there, like 92, 93, when Goosebumps started, I was writing a Goosebumps book every month and a Fear Street novel every month. I was writing a novel every 2 weeks. How did I do that? I have no idea. I don't know. I couldn't do it today. But I think that it was so exhilarating to have that kind of success that it just kept me going. Because I had been writing, this is true, and this is another thing for young writers to remember. I had been writing for 20 years and no one had noticed. And then suddenly these scary books just took off, Fear Street and Goosebumps, after 20 years of working. And I think it was so exhilarating to suddenly have this success that it kept me going. And I could write 24 novels a year. I did it for a couple years at least.
Wow.
Now I'm down to about 7 books a year.
Only.
Yeah, I know.
That's not, it's a lot. Oh my. Well, speaking of success, your books have been made into movies and we have a couple of questions about that. One is, will there be any more Goosebumps movies?
I haven't heard any more about it. No one's talking about it.
Okay.
I think maybe not, unless sometime in the future. Now there is talk, in fact, there's a deal for a new Goosebumps TV series, a brand new TV series. Sony optioned Goosebumps. And, but of course, because of COVID, nothing's being filmed right now. Nothing's being made. But I hope that happens. A lot of people ask me, especially on Twitter, why don't you do new Goosebumps shows? And I think that'll happen. But I haven't heard any more about a movie.
Okay.
Now, we've filmed already three Fear Street movies. They're all filmed, 3 films. They were supposed to open in movie theaters this past summer. And of course they couldn't. And they're going to be on Netflix next summer. Netflix is calling it the Summer of Fear. And all 3 of my Fear Street movies will be on Netflix next year.
That's
So
incredible.
that's nice.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Do you think Jack Black, Jeannie wants to know, and a number of others, did you think Jack Black made a good R.L. Stine in the Goosebumps movie?
Well, he wasn't anything like me at all. No one mistakes us for each other, right? But he was wonderful. He was wonderful. He and I had lunch, and he came to New York, I think, just to look at me, try to figure out. He said, Bob, what in the script for the movie is true about you? And I said, Jack, not a single thing. None of it's true. And he said, you know what? I'm going to play a sinister version of you. That's what I'm going to do. And that was his decision. And I thought he was terrific. I thought he was too mean in the first part of the film. I wouldn't be mean. He threw away the kid's phone. I wouldn't be mean like that. But he was terrific. He's a wonderful person, Jack, too. We just had the best time.
Someone wanted to know, how many books are you going to publish in the new series?
Which series? The graphic novel?
In the new graphic, yeah, the new graphic
so far.
series.
There's one more coming out.
One more?
Called, I'll think of it, Monstrosity.
Okay.
One more coming out next year. And then I don't know, but there are four in that. Okay. And I just signed on to do 6 more Goosebumps books.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm going to be 102. I'll be writing, I'll still be writing them. Where will I be sending them from? I don't know, but I'll still be writing them.
Well, this question, maybe you'll answer this questions with what you just said, but James wanted to know, what was the scariest thing that ever happened to you that didn't influence your writing?
The scariest moment of my life? I can tell you that very easily. It involves my son, Matt, again. And he was a real little guy. He was like 4 or 5. And this is absolutely the scariest thing that ever happened to me. I took Matt to the automobile show here in New York. And it was hundreds of cars and thousands of people. And I lost him. That was the scariest moment. I couldn't find him. That incredible moment of panic, right? And maybe it only lasted 30 seconds. It was enough. It was terrifying. And then after a while, I looked, I saw him, I spotted him standing over by a car. And I went running over to him. I said, Matt, are you okay? And he said, where were you, Dad? I was about to call the manager. He's a New York kid. Right? Why should I worry about him? He's going to call the manager. That was a very scary moment.
Well, you mentioned that you have, I think you said 6 more Goosebumps books that are going to be coming out. So this question would be very appropriate from Lance and several others like that question. Yes. And he wanted to know, will you ever bring back the old Goosebumps mascot, Curly the Skeleton?
Curly the Skeleton was never in a Goosebumps book.
No? No,
he never appeared. He was used for advertising. He was entirely for selling merchandise.
Okay.
We would sell Goosebumps bed sheets and Goosebumps sneakers and all that stuff. And but the funny thing is, I mean, he was done, Curly, by the same cover artist who did like the first 100 covers of Goosebumps, Tim Jacobus, who painted, wonderful, wonderful covers. But Curly never appeared in a real Goosebumps book.
Okay. This one, I don't know how you're going to answer this. Several people wanted to know, which of your book series is your favorite to write?
Goosebumps, of course. Okay. I have the most fun with that.
And just why?
I don't know. It's just fun.
Okay.
It's just, it's what I'm most proud of, for one thing. And it's, it's all over the world. What an amazing thing.
Right.
It's all over.
Yeah. Catherine wants to know, will you be working on another video game at any time in the future? The one on Scholastic web browser was taken down and I loved it and would love to play it again. I also love the one you can play on stream and the one on the,
Yeah.
I can't read the last part of that.
I don't know. I think they took it off the website because they're selling one.
Okay.
There's a new one they're selling. I don't have anything to do with the games. No,
Okay.
I've never even seen the newest game. I have nothing to do with it at all. But they have a new video game for all the different, platforms, I think. And I think that's why they took it off the website. And I don't know if, it's just not my area. I just do the books. I'm sorry, I can't be more helpful.
Okay, we have a real question here, and I'm wondering how this Noah knew to ask this. Wants to know how your dog is doing. You and I talked about it beforehand.
Minnie didn't make it through the summer. But Minnie was old. Minnie had a great life. Minnie was 14. And we gave her, the day before we had to take her in, we gave her a long swim. She had a great swim. She had a wonderful life. That's the problem with dogs, isn't it? They have such a short lifespan.
I know.
It was very sad.
And they become our best friends too. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And she's in the back of every book.
Yeah.
Is mentioned. So we'll probably get another one.
Gabe wanted to know why you have twins in so many of your books.
They're kind of creepy. I think they're kind of creepy. And I always have to have there have to be two characters. There has to be someone for the main character to talk to. I'm being very honest here. There has to be somebody. And so if they're twins, it's built in, right? They have someone to talk to.
Yes.
So we do it. I don't think I overdo it with twins.
Why, Mackenzie wants to know, why do the parents never believe the kids when they were telling the truth?
The parents are useless. The parents are always useless. They never believe them. They're never there. They never help the kids. And that's all deliberate, because it's sort of like in Peanuts, the adults on the Peanuts TV shows, they're just wah, 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 wah. They never really talk. They're just there in the background. But the idea of Goosebumps is, for me, that the kids have to solve the problems. They have to use their wits. They have to use their imagination. They have to be really clever and defeat the horrible foes that they're facing. And it wouldn't be much fun if the parents did it for them.
Right.
It's much more fun if they're totally on, and it's scarier. They're totally on their own. They have no help. There's no one to help them.
Mm-hmm.
Much scarier.
Right. Well, Jennifer wants to know, she says that her favorite book is Say Cheese and Die. How did you come up with the idea for the book?
I was talking about that earlier. I was just walking my dog in the park.
That's right.
And the words popped into my head. I don't know where they came from. Say cheese and die. There it was, right there. And then I just started thinking about it. A lot of people like that book. That's the only book. I was just talking about Tim Jacobus, the cover artist. And the way Tim and I worked was that I'd be writing the book while he was doing the cover. The book wouldn't be finished and he had to do the cover. So I would send over like a little paragraph about what the book was about, and Tim would come up with a cover. And every time he matched perfectly. His cover matched the book perfectly, except for Say Cheese and Die. That's the only one he didn't match it at all. And his painting came in for the cover, and it was a family of skeletons barbecuing. It had nothing to do with the book. And my editors called me from Scholastic, and they said, Bob, could you add a scene with skeletons barbecuing? Because he couldn't change the painting, right? He couldn't redo the painting. So I added a dream sequence in the book where the boy is dreaming about a family of skeletons barbecuing. And that's how we made the cover make sense. It's the only time that happened.
There was a question, I think, somewhere about what your favorite Goosebumps book is. And then there was another, what were your least favorite Goosebumps books? I don't know if you really even want to answer either of those, or maybe.
I have some least favorites. I do have, you know,
Okay.
they can't all be great, right?
Right.
They're not all brilliant. I recently reread Go Eat Worms. It's a horrible book. It was terrible. And there's another one with a, oh, now I won't think of the title. It's got a really mean dog on the cover. Ghost Dogs or something. Terrible, terrible book. There are a few of them that aren't very good. But I will say, the one that came out about 4 months ago is a comic. It's about comic books, and it's called They Call Me the Night Howler. And it's about a boy who loves comic books, and he draws them, he loves them. And he goes to this museum of superheroes. It's just a big museum of superhero art and superheroes. And he runs into a superhero called the Night Howler. And the Night Howler says, I'm quitting. And gives him his costume. Gives the boy, said, I've had it. This is no fun at all. I'm not making a living. I'm not going to be the Night Howler anymore. And he gives the boy the costume, and the boy has to become the Night Howler. And this is one of my favorite books. It might be the best Goosebumps book I've written in 10 years. I think it's really good. They Call Me the Night Howler. I'm very proud of that one.
Someone asked, is the second Haunted Mask going to return with the costume that attached to it? I'm not familiar with what that is.
They do sell, you know, I have the mask.
Right.
They sell the mask, but I don't know. I don't know anything about that stuff.
Okay. Well,
people always, it's funny. People write to me and say, do you have any idea where I can buy Goosebumps books in Istanbul? And I'm like here sitting in my apartment in New York, you know, I'm just writing every day. And I'm having a lot of trouble finding this number 4. Where should I look for? And I always say, well, you know, I just write them. I don't know where they sell them, right? I don't know what to say to these people.
Well, here's a very funny one from
Yeah.
Zach. I am a triplet. Will you have triplets in any of your future books?
Oh, wow. Wow. Oh, maybe that could be good, right?
Mm-hmm.
That could be interesting. Never done it. Never done it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Zach, that's food for thought here. By the way, Zach said he's 7 and loves your book and read so many of them, won't stop. They give him scary dreams and he loves it. That's just a little aside there.
That's nice.
And then I think we'll have time just for maybe 1 or 2 more. Who's your favorite author?
Well, I have a bunch of favorite authors. The science fiction writer Ray Bradbury is a favorite of mine, but I like a lot of people. Agatha Christie is a real one of my favorites. This won't mean anything to anyone under 80, but P.G. Wodehouse is a real hero of mine. He's written 90 novels. I think I've read them all. I read a lot. I read every night till like 1 in the morning. I love to read. And those are all very important authors to me. I like a lot of current thriller writers. Harlan Coben is a friend of mine and I love his books. And Michael Connelly is a wonderful writer. I love all these people.
Michelle had 2 questions here. She wanted to know how many languages your books are translated into.
I don't really know. The number I think is 32, 34. Something like that. They're all over. It's amazing.
And she wanted to know, I know the answer to this, but I'll let you answer it, what the L in your name stands for.
It's Lawrence.
Lawrence.
Such a boring name. It's Robert Lawrence. Kids expect it to be something scary or interesting, but it's Robert Lawrence. And that's it.
Well, I'm going to just ask a final question here. Braden wants to know if you can you ever start doing the Goosebumps fan club again? Sadly, I wasn't alive to sign up in time.
A lot of people weren't. A lot of people, it was like, what, 25 years ago? Yeah. I don't know. You should write to Scholastic. Write to people at Scholastic, the publisher. Tell them you want the fan club back. They're the ones who would do it. That would be a lot of fun. That was fun. The whole thing has been fun. It's been great. And how much fun to talk to you tonight. This has all been just terrific. What a great Halloween.
This has been a great Halloween. I don't think I've had a better Halloween, Bob.
Thank you.
It's been really a delight spending time with you tonight. Ben and Nandini asked thought-provoking questions, as did our audience. So, and a very enthused audience, I have to say, because the chatting just went on and on and on and on.
Oh, that's great.
Wonderful reactions. But we have now a much better idea about your work as a writer and your new graphic book, Welcome to Beast Island. So congratulations on yet another successful scary book for kids.
Thank you, Linda. This is great. Thank you. Happy Halloween, everybody. Stay scary.
And thanks to everyone for joining this Halloween conversation with the world's scariest storyteller for kids. And thanks for your terrific questions. If you're a middle grade student, I encourage you to tell your friends about R.L. Stine's new book, Welcome to Beast Island.